Today, let's explore some really profound observations from Steven Redhead's work, The Winds of Time, Accumulated Moments. It's a reflection on the very nature of reality and the quiet, often overlooked power we all have to shape it. So, let's dive in.
Right from the start, we're hit with this powerful, almost unsettling idea. It immediately makes you wonder, doesn't it? Are we just passengers in our own lives, or are we actually in control? This is really the heart of what we're looking at today. That fine line between what happens to us and what happens because of us.
The first observation to really sit with is this. The world we see as so solid and fixed might actually be more fluid than we think. Redhead reflects that our reality could be seen as a kind of illusion, one that's constantly being shaped and projected by our own minds.
And this idea just reframes everything. Instead of life being this rigid set of circumstances we have to endure, it's seen here as a deeply personal experience, almost like a dream that we're composing moment by moment. It's less of a test to be passed and, more of a story to be written.
This really brings the whole concept home. Our inner world, our thoughts, our deepest beliefs, what we choose to focus on, well, it isn't separate from the world out there. According to these reflections, they're the actual building blocks of the life we experience. They're the seeds from which our reality grows.
Okay, so if we run with that idea, the next logical question is how, right? If we're not just passive observers, what are the tools we have inside of us to actually influence and create this reality? The reflections point to three fundamental things. It all starts with imagination. Redhead observes this as the architect's blueprint, really. The essential first step. It's that ability to see something in your mind's eye with such clarity and detail that it creates a kind of pattern for reality to follow.
So imagination gives you the design, but belief, well, belief provides the fuel. Belief is seen as the energy that breathes life into that mental picture, giving it the power to actually manifest. Without belief, even the most amazing idea just stays an idea.
And the third tool is desire. This is the active force, that sustained, focused willpower that directs the energy of your belief toward the blueprint of your imagination. It's the engine, really, that drives creation forward.
And when you put it all together, you can see how two very different paths emerge. One is a life of intention, where these tools are used together to actively create. The other is a life of chance, where you're just carried along by circumstances, kind of like debris floating aimlessly at sea. This brings us to a really powerful metaphor, the winds of time. Time is observed as this constant, elemental force. We can either be passively blown around by it, or we can learn to navigate it with purpose, using our own inner tools as our rudder and our sail. And here we see that time is this unavoidable agent of change. Just as it wears away solid rock, it's also constantly shaping our inner landscape, our very sense of who we are. In this view, change isn't something that interrupts life, it's the very condition of being alive.
So this brings us to a really crucial question. If everything is always in flux, if reality is malleable, and time is always changing us, is there anything that's constant? What's the anchor we can hold on to in this ever-shifting experience?
It's such a natural human thing to do. We anchor our identity in things outside of us. Our possessions, our jobs, our achievements. We hold on to them for a sense of stability. But as Redhead's reflections note, all of those things are, by their very nature, temporary.
So what happens if you strip away all those external things, all the stuff we've gathered around us? What's left? The reflection here is powerful. Your core self, your fundamental identity. It would still be there, unchanged.
So the real anchor, it seems, is this authentic self. It's the part of us that exists completely separate from what we own, how we look, or what society says we are. The real journey, then, is to connect with that self, because it's the one thing that lasts through all the changes.
This question really brings all these observations down to a very personal level. It asks us to look at our own lives and ask, are we actively shaping our experience, or are we letting outside forces and the passive drift of time decide our path for us?
And this leads us to the culmination of these reflections, the ultimate realization of our own power. We are not just living a life, we are designing one. That power of the architect to deliberately design and then build is actually in our hands.
And this is such a critical distinction. Fate is something that just happens to you, like a script that's already been written. But destiny, as it's observed here, is a path that you first have to discover within yourself, and then you have to actively build it, choice by choice, moment by moment.
And so we end with this final provocative thought. If this life is indeed a fleeting, malleable experience, a dream unfolding in the vast expanse of eternity, then really, the most important question we can ever ask ourselves is, how will we choose to dream?